Namaskar, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Gita, Natyam, Samvaada, where conversations about the Gita and Natyam come home. Today we have a very talented, charming youngster from New Delhi. Let's give her a warm welcome.
Raji, namaste. Thank you for having me with you.
Namaste, Anshika. So glad you're here. There's something about the Gita and Natyam that has brought you here. What do you do and what has pulled you in?
Pavitra ji, I am a public policy and governance strategist. I work in that sector only, but Indian knowledge system has been a personal pursuit in many ways. And it has been like a inquiry on my personal level, where I try to just look at those traditional frameworks and get the inspiration to solve the contemporary problems or the day-to-day lives, right? How to approach those things. So that is what it is about. And when you talk about Gita Natyam, I have always, the first time that I saw you performing, those two worlds coming together, I look at Gita as the internal operating system, the internal philosophy, and Natyam by all its form becomes the external expression. So when both come together, it feels like an internal philosophy comes to life. In for you to be, it is visible, quite in the face. Yes.
Takata-jam, tatakata-dum, tatakata-rum, tatakata-dhim, takita-takadharikita-tum. Samada-jam, takata-jam, 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 takita-takadharikita-tum, 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 dhanatatum, janatatum, dhimatatum, dhinatum, dhanatum, dhinatum.
अधरं मधुरं वदनं मधुरं नयनं मधुरं हसितं मधुरम् अधरं मधुरं वदनं मधुरं गीतं मधुरं गीतं मधुरं गीतं मधुरं गीतं मधुरम्.
It is this tipping point when, for the first time, Arjuna, who's a dear friend and cousin, becomes a Sishya, student, and Krishna becomes the Guru, by which the timeless and universal teaching, the Bhagavad Gita, begins.
Gita Natyam, I feel, is the amalgamation of the internal and the external. And what comes out is the beautiful experience for the audience to watch.
What was your first exposure to the timeless and the powerful wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita?
This reminds me of this one story my father used to tell me, that he said, Bhagavad Gita had such profound knowledge, had such a good framework for everything. People rightly placed it in the prayer room. And by putting it there, what happened is, by an accidental byproduct is, people started saying to children, oh, don't play with it. It is very sacred. And we understand the emotion, but with the over-ritualization of the generation as the time went by, we stopped reading it as a philosophical, practical guide for our day-to-day problems, for the day-to-day approach of things. So that is that one story that inspired me to finally pick up the Gita and start reading it. So I myself started with this ISKCON translation of the Gita, Yatharth, where I used to translate the Hindi, English, and the Sanskrit part of it. But like many of us, my Sanskrit is also not that good where I can just, read a sloka and understand the meaning of it. So for deeper inquiry and quest, I started looking for commentaries and different things. I have it here with me as well, some of it. This was the first one that I picked it up. The second one was the Swami Chinmayananda Gita commentary and the Aurobind one. So there are various commentaries on Gita which is available, but the one that stick with me primarily was this one. This is the Gita translation by Vivek Debroi. He was, because coming from my profession, the strategist and the economic part of it, he was the chairman of the Prime Minister's Chief Economic Council, so Advisory Council. He has done his attempt to translate the Gita in the best of the forms without any errors. And this is the first book I read cover to cover. So that was the first Gita experience that I had.
He was a great person, Nanshika. Tell me about your experience reading Sri Vivek Debreu's book.
So given my, as I said, my background in policy and the research, this was the absolute gem that I got my hands on. He has tried to translate with every historical grammatical connection errors. And, he has given this 4 or 5 pages where he has said, oh, in this Gita, I found this is the error. Oh, in this edition, this is the error. So he's pointed out the minute details. And then he has given that with my own humbleness, I'm trying to give the exact translation in the best of my abilities. So he has given that. And if there is any, if there is any details that he has to give, so he has given it just like this, just 2 lines for everything. And if there is any explanation, he has given at the end of it. If you want to read or something like for everything. So what he has tried is like how we get the Sanskrit text, the small one, where it's just the English, where it's just the shlokas. That's the same way he has tried to do the English ones. It is very clean. It takes quite effort. Highly recommended, but to anybody who wants to read Bhagavad Gita in English.
How would you like to inspire your friends, your people, that this great Bharatiya Sanskriti is actually not boring, but makes life so meaningful and lively once you start to understand and relate to it?
I look at this as a strategist. I look at this through the lens of, framing it as a human behavior and how do we frame it better? Our communication, how do we work on it? So the current generation activity, so they're actively distracted with reels. Their attention span is quite low. And they're actually searching for answers. If you look, they're downloading mindfulness apps. They are the ones who are going back to the health part of it. They are saying, okay, we'll eat right. Okay, they're reading Western philosophy. So if you look at that, they're actively searching for answers. So the key to inspiring them isn't on preaching the Gita to the young generation. If you say, oh, this is a religious text, please read it. By whatever my understanding is, I am sure that they'll be resisting it for many reasons. But if you give them, okay, if you change the packaging and you give it them that this is the ultimate open source operating system for the mind. If you said this is the open source operating system for the mind, just give it a read. Keep it in your, book stand, in your bed side table. Just read it whenever you feel like. Don't read it as a religious book. Have an open mind. Just read it. There are some things which will stick with you. There are some things which will not. And apart from that, my personal experience has been that Gita speaks to you differently in different times of life, in different phases of life. So you have to look at it like that. You don't have to look at it, oh no, this is a religious text. I'm not sure if I'm that person. No, it's like operating system for mind. Just try and give it a read, like you do with the other self-help books.
Reading these books, trying to assimilate this timeless wisdom, this timeless operating system in your language. What is one small thing that you can commit about the Gita that you would like to share in our next episode?
There's one thing that I have always thought, like I read this in many spaces. This is written in Bhagavad Gita, or for example, the most famous shloka, where they say karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana, that shloka where you have the right to your actions, not to your fruits. I think there are certain parts which is misunderstood, because Gita as a whole is a book. You cannot just pick out, as they say in the modern thing, like you can pick out any shloka and it becomes like a thing of you can follow, right? But I think you have to read things in context. So that is one thing I think I can commit to.
I really look forward to it, Anshika. I feel so happy speaking to you. Thank you
Thank
so
you so much,
much.
Pavitra.
See you soon.
Namaste. Thank you so much for having me.